This is my favorite. This is my favorite. Freestyle yo-yoing. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kitty Mary and I'm so happy that you wanted to join me today, because today we're going to talk about zero waste hobbies, free time, leisure. This is a video that has been requested for the longest time and I completely understand. I post on Instagram about my hobbies quite a lot and I always get questions like, how do I do this sort of thing zero waste? Or how do I do this sort of thing without being wasteful? So we're going to answer some of those questions today. But before we get started, this video is sponsored by Skillshare. Yeah, I know, the first Skillshare sponsorship in 2021. If you don't know Skillshare, which I guess you do at this point, but we're gonna talk about them anyway. It's an online learning community with thousands of different courses and you can literally learn everything. And I thought they would be a pretty cool sponsor for a video about hobbies and learning new skills. I mean, it's a perfect match. My most recent hobby is painting and drawing. I've been using Skillshare so much in that process and I've been learning so much both about calligraphy and about water painting, and I'm going to link some really cool courses down below so you can go and check those out as well. There's also a link and the first 1,000 people to click it will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video. Now let's get into the zero waste hobby talk. I have sort of tried to divide this video into two sections, one being my hobbies and how I do them zero waste or sustainably, and then I have a list of your hobbies and your contributions and I'm going to react to them, comment on them, and sort of, you know, like we're going to bring it all together. And you're very welcome to comment down below what your hobbies are and how you try to do them sustainably. Let's do this. In April 2019, I attended my first Taekwondo lesson and I had no prior experience with Taekwondo and very little experience with martial arts, but I just thought that I need something else because I was about to graduate from uni. All my friends and network and stuff like that, or most of it, was related to uni and that was about to go away. And I was about to be an independent business owner, which meant I would work even more from home and even more by myself. So the point of attending Taekwondo, I don't know why I ended up doing Taekwondo, because it was close to my apartment, I guess, but I wanted to be able to go somewhere pretty weekly and see other people and do other things, so I wouldn't just be someone who did sustainability and that was the only thing about me, because that can also seriously drive you to burnout. And actually I have a blog post about productivity and burnout if you are interested in reading how I stay on track, how I stay productive and how I avoid burnout. This is one of the points in that blog post, but there are 10. When I started Taekwondo, I did the first couple of lessons just in my normal workout gear, because you weren't really required to buy any of the things before you knew you wanted to join, and I ended up being there I think three to four times before I ended up getting some of the gear. And you have to have a suit, a do book, and you have to have a belt, because unless you do combat training, that is really the only things you need. And I was able to get those secondhand. I talked to some of the other people in the class and asked them if they had any do books laying around that they didn't need, or I actually think people also came to me and asked if I wanted to buy their old do books. I actually got 2 for free as well because people couldn't fit into them anymore. So that was really amazing. So if you are doing any sort of like team training or something where you have to be with other people, you can ask them if they have anything that they don't need and you could buy cheaply or get, or you know, something like that. And then the belts you usually get whenever you advance, you get new belts and they are usually new. But I found 3 types of Taekwondo belts that I would need in the future in a thrift shop. This year I went from an orange belt to a green belt and I already have the green belt good to go in my closet. But I really recommend, if you do something that is team related or generally just related to working out with other people and doing specific things, ask them if there are any fora or groups you can join where people swap or buy secondhand stuff from each other, or if anyone's simply interested in letting you purchase some of their old stuff. Okay, now another hobby which I have already talked about, but something that I have been getting more and more into is painting and drawing. It's something that I did quite a lot when I was growing up, but then I sort of phased it out and didn't really do it. I'm one of those people where I have to be the best at something, otherwise I'm super demotivated by it, and I'm not very good at it, I feel like. Or like I haven't been good at it for a long time, because when I used to paint and draw previously, I would draw people and faces. And I don't know how to draw people and faces. It always ends up looking so weird. So I just assumed that I'm bad at drawing and painting. During lockdown, I started painting other kinds of things. I started painting flowers, and I started being inspired by different kinds of tattoos, and I started doing dot work and watercolor and all kinds of other things that didn't require me to do faces, and I found that I am better at it than I thought I was, and like just it turned out way better than I assumed it would, because to my prior experience I was not good. So when it comes to painting and drawing, there are a couple of different supplies, and you can go down to many stores and buy everything you need just at one place, but I instead rather decided to accumulate things from here and there. So my first place to go was Facebook Marketplace, because you can find a lot of really specific things, and I know for a fact that a lot of people get into new hobbies and instantly start buying tons of things without really thinking about whether or not it's something that they want. So that's also something that I think you should be cautious of, not to accumulate or buy tons of specific things that you can only use for this hobby, and then you find out you don't really want to do the hobby anymore. So I started simply by going for pens and paper, simply just normal pens. There's so many pens and small, like not professional craft supplies, but something that are completely good enough for me in thrift shops. So I have been using those a lot. And then I've been using recycled paper from these really cool notepads that I actually really want to show you. So let's just see if I can find it. This is from a Danish company called Scrappad, and they make 100% leftover upcycled notebooks with paper from factory waste, which I think is pretty darn cool. And there are tons of different initiatives that try to upcycle or recycle paper to make stuff like this. And of course, you can also recycle your paper once you're done using it. Then there is the thing about painting. First of all, I decided to do water painting because I saw a bunch of really cool videos on TikTok, and I thought it looked cool the way you can sort of layer and mix the colors with the water, and it's super satisfying to watch. But there's also the notion that a lot of other types of paints include fossil materials, aka oil, aka oil paints, and I really wanted to stay clear of those, also because it's generally very toxic when you don't have, you know, like a workshop or an atelier. I wanted to make sure that this was something I could do in my living room without the dire consequences of toxic fumes. And also water paints are rather or more easily accessible in natural pigments and with more sustainable materials. I've actually made a list of really cool sustainable paint companies down below. I have 2 palettes of paint, and they each come in this amazing stainless steel box that you can replace the small dibbidi-dabbidi-doodies. I'm just gonna show you as well, 1 second. That's also a sound nice. This is my palette for paint, and as you can see, these small tiny inserts, they can be taken out and exchanged and put back in. So you can simply buy refills for these rather than buying a whole palette with a lot of colors that you're never going to use, simply just to get one color. It's basically the same principle as makeup products. Instead of buying entire palettes with things you don't need, just buy refills, which is what I will also recommend. It's pretty cool. The thing is with paint, and even natural colors as well, they're really resource intensive to make. You need a lot of material to produce a tiny amount of pigment. It's sort of the same as with perfume. You need tons, actual tons of flowers and fruits and natural materials to make the tiniest thing. I love board games. I love board games for the reason that it's amazing to sit down with your friends and play a board game rather than streaming something. I also have a video about the impact of the internet and how that's actually something that most of us aren't really that conscious about. And when I'm with other people, I prefer to do something that is offline, simply also for the impact of the internet, but also because it's cozier. For board games, I also go for, I don't know how many times I can say this, secondhand. Again. But Facebook Marketplace is a great place for this, because you can also find groups and fora on there where people exchange or buy board games from each other. And I know here in Denmark there is an actual group where you can buy board games, where it's all related to purchasing secondhand board games, which I think is amazing. So that's something that we're doing quite a lot. Jens, he has quite the extensive board game collection, many of which are also bought secondhand, also pre-Gitte Mary. Another thing that we do when it comes to board games, however, we haven't done it that much in 2020 because of lockdown, but we visit board game cafes where you sort of pay an entry price and then you can play the board games that they have. There's Bastard Cafe in Copenhagen, which we really love. We've been there so many times. We also have ones in Aalborg, and I think it's an amazing opportunity to try out games that you wouldn't have tried yourself, or that you perhaps think about purchasing but want to test before you purchase it, if that makes any sense. So this borrowing and sharing culture is amazing, and if that is an opportunity that you have within your hobby and the realm of your hobbies, then definitely do it. I think it's so cool. I really love going climbing and bouldering. I think it's super fun. It's something that really challenges your body and your muscles and your mind as well, and I think it's super fun. And we have a place where you can go in Aalborg. It's quite cheap. It's called Game, and we're members there. It's really cool, and you can actually borrow shoes for climbing. Borrowing and sharing something is way better than each person buying an individual pair of shoes, or an each individual pair of many things that they don't use every day, that we don't use all the time. So instead, sharing a common thing is always tons better. But if you do want your own thing, I also again suggest secondhand. And the thing is, again, when people buy a lot of shit for their hobbies and then they never end up using them, you can find bouldering shoes that have never been worn and people are just selling them again because, like, heck it. Then I have like low-key workout, fitness. I'm not like a complete #fitness queen, but I do light exercises here at home, and then I run outside. And I have a pair of running shoes. They're really old at this point, like also pre-zero waste. And then most of my workout clothes is from Organic Basics, and they have a sustainable, ethical production of clothes made with recycled materials, which is amazing. I've also become an affiliate partner of Organic Basics because I use their products anyway, and I think they're really awesome. And then I have a little tiny weight that I found in a secondhand shop. Actually, the shop had two, but I couldn't carry them home in my bag. And lastly, then I have a sustainable cork yoga mat that I use for stretching, yoga, stuff like that in the living room. And I'll also leave a link to that down below. Last thing is computer games. I do light gaming sometimes, and I don't want to hear anyone gatekeeping saying that The Sims isn't gaming, because aha, it is. I have The Sims, I do like really classical roller coaster tycoon stuff, and I play Worms with Jens quite a lot. I generally try to focus on games that you can buy a non-physical copy of, but that you don't have to be online to play, that you don't have to store anywhere other than on your computer, so you can buy it online and then play it offline. Those are my favorite things in the world. I love those types of games, so that is usually what I do, both with The Sims, Roller Coaster Tycoon. I also have Zoo Tycoon hidden somewhere, and it's a game I played when I was 10 years old. I don't know, but I still love it, and it's the same game. Yes. If you're into those kinds of like retro, like, you know, your childhood games, you can also find those in many thrift shops, and sometimes the discs aren't even that scratched. Now let's get into your hobbies and your contributions to this video. I've tried to make some categories to make this a little bit more organized. So the first category is going to be like outside nature stuff. First of all, we have walking, running, plugging being running whilst picking up trash, which is all really cool. I don't think they're like hobbies or like what I try to think of as hobbies, but more like activities, but of course that could also be different for other people. I don't know how I feel about like hobbies is like an I don't know what my point is with this. Plugging, the picking up trash while you run, I try to make it my deal to every time I leave my house always pick up at least 3 pieces of trash on the street, because there are plenty to go around. You can almost make like a little game out of it. I know a couple of years ago I did trash bingo a couple of times, and if you want those videos, I feel like you can just search for Gita Mary trash bingo and I think they will come up. Okay, for the next few ones I'm going to look down on my laptop because I have them all written down. I cannot remember this in my head. Okay, so then there is making decorations from driftwood, which I think is really cute, and I really want to see what this person comes up with. So if you're that person that wrote this, or if you do this as well, please DM me some of the pictures of the stuff that you make, because this sounds really cool. And I feel like if you live close to a beach, it's going to be like really easy to find materials. Then there's identifying plants and animals in nature. This is almost like kind of scouty. We've done it a couple of times in my family with mushrooms, when we go out to a forest and see how many mushrooms we can find. It's actually a really good time. And the drying flowers. I love dried flowers, so I'm definitely on board with this one. And then there's gardening / composting. I also think definitely gardening is a hobby, I feel like. I don't know if composting is a hobby, unless you do it competitively or intensely. Competitive composting is a thing and I want it so bad. Maybe that's why someone stole my compost. Then there's trekking and hiking. Kind of the same thing as walking, but I feel like, again, a little bit more intensely and possibly something that requires more gear. Anyway, I think that's a really good way to spend your time. And if you're looking for gear like that, again, Facebook Marketplace, secondhand apps, stuff like that can be a really, really, really good tool. And then like pine cone picking. And then we have regrowing veggies. I love my own regrown veggies. I don't know if I call it a hobby for myself, but I guess, again, if you do it more than I do, you would. But I have regrown veggies in my window at my kitchen, and I love watching my little boys grow up. Then we have fermenting and pickling. You can, for instance, make kombucha, which is fermented tea, and you can pickle basically any vegetable that you want. I have a guide on my blog about how to make pickled red onions, which is something that I use every single day, basically. I love my red onions. So if you want that guide, you can find that down below as well, but definitely you can really get into both fermenting and pickling because there's a lot of stuff to learn, and it's also something that's super useful in your everyday life. And lastly, scouting, which is super cool. You can learn to make shelter and fire and put it out and, you know, like, take care of nature. It's cool. I was actually a scout for quite a long time, I think 7 years, and it ended up being thrown out of my troop because I was an edgy emo kid who didn't want to be there. But I like that I had a lot of experience pre-emo. DIY, crafty, indoor things. And the first thing is crocheting. I am impressed when people can do stuff like this. Also knitting and embroidery, which are also on the list. But doing things with thread, it's impressive to me. I also feel like crochet work, embroidery, knitted things are really, really great gift ideas, so just win-win. I've actually been thinking about starting to learn it a couple of times because I have often stumbled upon yards and yards of thread in thrift shops that are just like waiting for someone. To this also comes sewing and fixing clothes, which I both think is a really cool hobby. It's one of Jens's hobbies, and fixing clothes is just a really nice bonus. When you know how to produce clothing, you also often know how to fix it, which is a great zero waste trait to have. And the candle making, is that something? I feel like it is. That's really cool. Also soap making, which is something that I know a little bit about, but not a whole lot. I know how to remelt soaps into Franken soaps, so that's something. Paper mache is also a thing. I've never heard of anyone doing it at home. I feel like that's something that we actually did a lot in school, but not something I've heard about people doing at home. But cool thing to do. Then there is collage making and darning, and I actually had to look up what darning is, but apparently that's also something to do with threads and making things, crafty things, sewing things. Then I sort of made a category called Inside Miscellaneous Things, which includes reading, which is cool, a cool hobby to have. There are tons of amazing books, both fiction and non-fiction. Personally, I prefer non-fiction. Then we have ebook reading. Cool if you want to avoid the paper. Someone just wrote libraries, and I actually understand because there are tons of workshops related to libraries. I've held lectures and workshops in libraries myself, so if you have a local library, check out what they offer. Then there is playing the ukulele, and I guess playing all instruments, but someone wrote ukulele specifically, so that's what we're going to talk about. I don't know how to play any instrument, so I'm always baffled and completely, overly, utterly impressed when people know how to play an instrument. I think it's super, super cool. Amazing hobby, so amazing. And also, I guess, rather easy to find zero waste or low impact because secondhand instruments are easy to come by, I feel like. Then there is digital art and amateur photography. This is my favorite. This is my favorite. Freestyle yo-yoing. Then there's voice lessons, which is related to singing, I guess. Something that I wish I've done more. I've been in a choir before, but I'm not very good at it. Just, you know, shower purposes. But people who go to voice lessons and really work with their voice and what it can do, cool, super cool. There's collecting vintage board games, that's really fun, and collecting retro games, also amazing. Then there's writing and writing poetry and research stuff with writing, also great. I feel like research should be one of my hobbies because I do it a whole darn lot. Then there's chess and music, cool. The category of sports. There wasn't a lot of sport contributions. There's handball, which is huge in Denmark, so I don't know, maybe a Dane wrote this, I don't know. Then there's yoga, then there's dance, also really cool. Don't know how to do it whatsoever. Love watching people that are really, really good at it. Then there's martial arts, represent, and again, running. I hope this gave you some idea or inspiration on how to enjoy your hobbies, but in a more sustainable way. I like making this video. I hope you like watching it. I hope you're going to have an amazing day. And thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. That made my day. If you want, you can leave comments down below if you have any comments on the things that I've mentioned, or if you want to tell me what kind of hobbies that you have and how you do them more sustainably. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day and take good care of yourselves. Until next time. Bye! Thank you so much for watching this video, and also a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys help me create green zero waste content and I love you guys. You can find the links to my social media accounts down below and the link to my Patreon on this screen. Bye!